For most of human history, civilizations rose and fell one at a time. An empire collapsed here, a kingdom weakened there. But around 1200 BCE, something very different happened. Across the eastern Mediterranean and Near East, multiple advanced civilizations collapsed almost simultaneously. Powerful kingdoms disappeared. Major cities were destroyed or abandoned. Trade routes that had connected the ancient world for centuries suddenly broke down. This period is known as the Bronze Age collapse, and historians are still trying to fully understand why it happened. To grasp how shocking this event was, we first need to understand what the Bronze Age world looked like before it collapsed. By the late Bronze Age, the ancient world was highly interconnected. Civilizations such as the Mycenaeans in Greece, the Hittite Empire in Anatolia, New Kingdom Egypt, and city-states across the Levant were linked through trade, diplomacy, and warfare. Tin and copper, the ingredients needed to make bronze, were traded over vast distances. Luxury goods, weapons, and ideas moved between kingdoms. This was not a primitive world. It was a complex international system, and that system was fragile. Unlike later iron-based societies, Bronze Age civilizations depended heavily on long-distance trade. Tin was rare and often imported from far away. Disrupt those trade routes, and bronze production collapsed. Without bronze weapons, tools, and armor, states struggled to defend themselves or maintain infrastructure. Archaeological evidence shows that between roughly 1200 and 1150 BCE, destruction layers appear across dozens of major sites. Cities like Mycenae, Ugarit, and Hattusa show signs of burning and abandonment. Written records abruptly stop. In some regions, literacy disappears for centuries. This alone tells us something crucial. The collapse was not localized. It was systemic. One long-debated factor is warfare and invasion. Ancient Egyptian records mention groups known today as the Sea Peoples. They appear in inscriptions describing battles along the eastern Mediterranean coast. Some scholars believe these groups were migrating populations displaced by instability elsewhere. Others argue they were opportunistic raiders exploiting a weakened system. What matters is not whether they were the sole cause, but that movement of peoples increased pressure everywhere at once. Another major factor was political instability. Bronze Age states were often highly centralized. Power rested in palace systems that controlled resources, armies, and trade. When those centers failed, due to rebellion, assassination, or economic strain, there was often no backup structure. Collapse was fast. Once central authority broke down, cities could not easily reorganize. Climate also played a role. Recent scientific studies suggest periods of prolonged drought during the late Bronze Age. Lower rainfall meant crop failures. Food shortages increased unrest. Weakened populations were less able to resist attack or recover from disruption. Climate alone did not cause the collapse, but it amplified every other problem. Economic strain, warfare, migration, political fragility, and environmental stress created a perfect storm. No single cause explains the Bronze Age collapse. Instead, historians increasingly agree that multiple pressures hit an interconnected system at the same time. When one part failed, others followed. The consequences were profound. Trade networks vanished. Large-scale architecture stopped. Writing systems like Linear B disappeared. In Greece, this led to centuries of reduced population and simpler material culture, a period once called the Greek Dark Ages. But this was not the end of civilization. It was a transformation. Out of the collapse emerged new technologies and social structures. Iron replaced bronze, smaller, more flexible political systems developed. New cultures eventually rose, shaped by the lessons of failure. The world that followed was different, but not empty. The Bronze Age collapse reminds us of something deeply relevant even today. Highly connected systems are powerful, but they are also vulnerable. When trade, climate, politics, and conflict align in the wrong way, even advanced societies can unravel faster than expected. Not overnight, but faster than anyone living at the time could imagine. That is why historians continue to study this period, not because it is mysterious, but because it shows how complexity itself can become a risk.